What's going on, everybody? My name is Jeremiah Battle and welcome to my YouTube channel. So the year currently now is 2025. 2024 is over, but I think 2024 was a great year personally for me watching movies. I didn't necessarily watch all of the movies that I wanted to. I remember in January of 2024, I had a goal of watching 400 movies in that year. Now, I didn't quite make it to that number, unfortunately, but I still did watch a good amount of movies, and I watched some fantastic movies within that crop. There were some movies that were good, there were some movies that were bad, there were some movies that were in the middle somewhere, but here in today's video, we're gonna go over my 2024 Letterboxd movie stats. Now, I don't really know what to expect. First off, let's talk about Letterboxd stats or Letterboxd Wrapped, whatever you want to call it. Let's talk about it. I love at the end of the year being able to go back and look at what I watched during the whole entire year. Similar to something like Apple Music Replay or Spotify Wrapped, Letterboxd is the same exact way. It gives you stats like telling you what films you watched the most of on what day, or what country you watched the most films from, or who your most watched director was, or most watched actor. It tells you how many hours that you watched movies. I love stats like this. I love when I can get information like this broken down into little bite-sized pieces. Like I said before, I didn't watch as many movies as I wanted to. If we rewind back to January of 2024, I had planned to watch 400 movies during the year. That didn't happen. Let me tell you right now, that did not happen. I didn't really even get close to that, but I still did watch a good amount of movies, and right now we're going to check the stats for those. But with all that being said, let's get straight into it. So I just opened my Letterboxd. Right here it says 2024 Jeremiah Battle's year in film. Looking at this first section, I see 206 diary entries, 206 reviews. This year, I made a big emphasis on reviewing every single thing that I watched, and I completed that, so I'm pretty happy about that. I made 15 lists, apparently. I feel like I made more. 1,028 likes, 110 comments, and 382 hours of watched movies. That's pretty good to me. I feel like anything above 500 hours watched, I feel like you gotta get outside a little bit more. I think 382 is a very solid number. It's a healthy amount. I've seen a lot of Letterboxd Wrapped where people are watching like 900 plus hours of movies. At that point, you gotta get outside a little bit more. But more power to you if that was you. I just feel like for me, 382 was a very healthy amount. You know, I live a busy life. I'm making my own movies. I'm going to work. I'm going to school. I hang out with friends, girlfriend, like all these things, family. I feel like I do a lot of things outside of watching movies. So that 382 number for hours watched feels very healthy to me, at least. All right, so if we look at my highest rated films for 2024, we have Dune Part 2, of course. I think that was the best movie of 2024. Then I have this short film called Punter. I think this is one of the best short films I've seen in a very long time. When I watched this movie, I immediately gave it 5 stars. This is one of the best short films of the year and one of the best short films I've ever seen in my life. Challengers, which I think is the second best movie of the year, right behind Dune Part 2. And then we have The Wild Robot. This movie brought me to tears. I was crying tears during this movie. Nickel Boys, I think, is one of the most unique films of the year. The Substance, again, one of the most unique films of the year. Nosferatu is there as well. I don't know why Nosferatu is there. It's not... You know, this isn't quite right. This is kind of weird because I feel like these three weren't even in my top 10 of the year. So I don't know why those are right there. Actually, if we go to my list of 2024 films ranked, you'll see that I have Dune Part 2 at number 1, Challengers at 2, Hitman at 3, Origin at 4, The Wild Robot at 5, Nickel Boys at 6, Conclave at 7, The Bike Riders at 8, DD at 9, and Furiosa at 10. Nosferatu, I think, was 15, and The Substance was 20. So there was 11 movies that weren't even on that list. So that's a little bit weird to me. So for films that I watched in 2024 that weren't necessarily released in 2024, Pulp Fiction, which I rewatched, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I rewatched. I think that Once Upon a Time is Tarantino's best movie. I rewatched Past Lives. I think that this is the best A24 film of all time. Spider-Man 2 is the best superhero movie of all time. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. Before Sunset, one of the best romance films of all time. It's a Wonderful Life, the best Christmas movie ever. Like the best. It's quintessential. It's a quintessential Christmas watch. I rewatched Interstellar in theaters in 70mm at AMC Lincoln Square. That was a great time. I rewatched Alien. I think I bumped that up from a 4 to a 4.5. Perfect Blue, which I watched for the first time. Movie was phenomenal. So if we look at the movies by week, my highest week, so 10 films from January 8th to the 14th. Like, it was like very up and down. Like, I would have some stretches where I would watch like 3 movies, then 10 movies, then 7, then 2. The most films I definitely watched in one week was I watched 10 films the week of December 23rd and 29th, and I watched 10 films between January 8th and the 14th. So I guess at the beginning of the year, I was really determined. at the end of the year. I was really determined as well. I watched I watched no films between January 29th and February 4th. I don't know why. I don't know. I watched no films between March 4th and March 10th. So, but other than that, I watched at least one movie a week. I definitely want to get that up as time goes on. If we look at this stat down here, 206 movies logged total, 17.2 movies per month average, and 3.9 movies per week. And for me, I feel like that's pretty good. I want to get that up in 2025, but for me, I thought that was pretty good. So it looks like Wednesdays were movie day for me. I watched 37 films on Wednesday this year. My second most was Saturday with 32 films. I think next up would be Tuesday with 31. And then Sunday with 27. I think. And then, Friday with 28. Then Sunday with 27. Then Monday with 26. And Friday was 25. I guess Fridays weren't really movie days. You know, I've actually been saying this for a long time. Friday is the most boring day of the week, in my opinion. It's like you get through the whole entire week waiting for Friday. Friday finally comes, and then you're just looking forward to Saturday. So Friday doesn't even feel like a great day to me, which is probably why I watch 25 movies, the least amount of movies during the week on Fridays. So if we look at some of my milestones, the first film of the year was Blue Beetle on January 3rd. I don't know why I didn't watch a film on January 1st or 2nd, but the first film of the year was Blue Beetle. I gave it 3 stars. The 50th film of the year was Monkey Man. I gave that a 3.5. I watched that on April 5th. The 100th movie of the year was Luca. I gave that a 3.5, and I watched that on June 15th. The 150th movie of the year for me was Joker. I believe the first Joker. I bumped it down from a 4 to a 3.5. I watched that on October 5th, I think in preparation for Joker Folie à Deux. The 200th movie of the year was Baby Girl, which I did not like really. I gave it a 2.5. Really disappointed by that one. I wanted to like it a lot more. I was just really disappointed. I didn't think it was that great. I felt that it was a little bit shallow. I didn't think Nicole Kidman was that great either. But shout out Harris Dickinson. I think he was pretty good throughout. And then the last film of the year was Wes Anderson's Bottle Rocket. Not the feature, but the short. All right, so my most rewatched movies. So honestly, I'm not a big rewatch guy, if I'm being honest. Trapped from M. Night Shyamalan, watched that twice. Before Sunset, I watched that twice. 5-star masterpiece every single time. It gets better every single time. I love Before Sunset. Then we have Twisters, such a fun movie. Honestly, I think Twisters was the movie of the summer. Unfortunately, I watched Deadpool and Wolverine twice. I watched it like 2 days in a row. I watched it by myself the first day, and then my friends wanted to watch it like the next day. I bit the bullet. I watched it again. It got worse on rewatch, by the way. And I'm sure if I watch it again, it'll bump down to a 2.5. Currently, I have that at 3, and that's just me being nice. Then I rewatched Challengers. Originally, I had it at a 5-star. The first time I watched it, I gave it 5 stars. Then I rewatched it, and I gave it 4.5. Still great. Just bumped it down a little bit. Interestingly, the first time that I watched Dune Part 2, I gave it a 4.5, but the second time I gave it a 5-star. So, yeah, it's kind of funny how that worked out. So, if we look at genres, countries, and languages, my most watched were drama, which checks out with 98 films because drama is probably my favorite genre of movie. Drama. That's a tongue twister. But drama is definitely my favorite genre of film. Comedy, surprise, was 67. I guess I do watch a lot of rom-coms, so I'm guessing that's where that comes from. In third, we have action with 48 movies. In fourth place, we have thriller with 44. Fifth place, romance, 44. Sixth, crime, 38. And then we have sci-fi with 32 films. Adventure with 28. Horror with 26. And mystery with 16. I'm not really a big horror guy. Surprised that's not at the bottom. But I guess mystery, horror are parallel a little bit. So, and for the languages, English was my most watched language with 185 films. Then Japanese was 7, French was 6, Korean with 2, and 2 Swedish. That's kind of surprising. I felt like I watched more international movies this year, but I guess that I didn't. That's a little bit disappointing and a little bit concerning, if I'm being honest. Theme movies, we have moving relationship stories with 31 films. And for nano genres, we have action, epic, and emotion. I don't even know what that would entail. Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire. Venom, The Last Dance. So if we look at the films I watched this year and we break them down, like I told you guys, I'm not really that much of a rewatch person, so you can see that the watches strongly outweigh the rewatches. I have 87.9% watches and 12.1% rewatches, which I do want to bump up. I'm slowly becoming more of a rewatch person. So 66.5 of the movies I watched this year weren't 2024 releases, but 33.5 were. For 2025, I definitely want to watch a lot more movies released in that year, but I also want to continue to watch a lot of older movies that aren't released from 2025. So that's going to be a journey in and of itself. I'm really excited to watch more movies in the theater, to watch more movies as they're coming out, because I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I'll look at a trailer for a movie, or I'll be in the theater watching a movie and watching the trailers for movies that are coming out soon, and I'm like, that's not good. I'm just not going to watch it. And I kind of want to get out of that mentality, because I kind of want to watch every single thing that comes out in theaters in 2025, so hopefully I can make that happen. Like I said before, if I watch something, I'm going to review it, I'm going to log it, I'm going to make a diary entry of it, and you can tell by that 100% reviewed percent. Okay, so my most watched actor of this year was Owen Wilson. Owen Wilson. I was not expecting that at all, really. What Owen Wilson's films that I did watch the Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, Little Fockers trilogy, the Fockers trilogy. I did watch that. I wasn't expecting him to be my most watched actor. I also have J.K. Simmons at 6, Willem Dafoe at 5, Samuel L. Jackson at 5, and Ving Rhames at 5 as well. Will Smith, James Marsden, Jim Carrey, Timothy Chalamet, and Topher Grace. Who else we got here? We got
Anne Hathaway with 4 movies, Matthew McConaughey with 4, Tom Hardy 4, Reed Scott with 4, Nicolas Cage 4, Robert De Niro 4, Bradley Cooper 4, Glenn Powell 4, Sydney Sweeney 4, Brad Pitt 4, Kirsten Dunst 4, Ben Schwartz 3, Idris Elba 3,
Tom Butler 3. I don't even know who Tom Butler is. Oh snap, my bad. I didn't. I did watch the whole entire Sonic trilogy in one day. As you can tell, December 29th was a special day. I watched all the Sonic movies in one day. If we look at my most watched directors, we have Richard Linklater with 5 movies. I watched Before Sunset twice, then I watched Bernie, Last Flag Flying, Everybody Wants Some, and Hitman, which was one of my favorite movies released in 2024. Richard Linklater is one of my all-time favorite directors, so it makes sense why he is the top director of films that I watched this year. Ridley Scott with 4 movies, Jeff Fowler, shout out Sonic, with 3 movies. Then we have Terrence Malick. Terrence Malick this year became one of my favorite directors. I watched The Tree of Life, was completely floored. Then I watched Days of Heaven, absolutely loved that movie. And The New World, which I also thought was fantastic. Terrence Malick went 3 for 3 for me this year, and I can't wait to watch more of his movies. We have John Chu with 3 movies, Doug Liman with 3 movies, who I actually met this year in person. Shout out Doug Liman. Paul Thomas Anderson with 3 movies, Sam Raimi with 3 movies. I think I rewatched the Spider-Man trilogy, so that tracks. Then Greg Gliena. I was not aware that he directed the Fockers trilogy. I did, in fact, watch the Fockers trilogy. And Tarantino with 2, I believe that was a rewatch of Pulp Fiction and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 2 great movies. So my most liked review was Dune Part 2. Shout out everyone who liked that review for Dune Part 2. That review got 162 likes, which is probably the most likes I've ever got on a Letterboxd review. So shout out everyone who liked that review. I appreciate you guys. Here are some highs and lows for the year. So the highest average film that I watched was Masaki Kobayashi's film Harakiri, which I was absolutely floored by. One of the best films I've seen from this year and all time. It's a great samurai story about machismo and toxic masculinity and following false leaders and blind leaders, and it's such a great movie. I think it's one of the best samurai films that I've seen, one of the best films from that decade. Great watch. The lowest average movie I watched this year was Madam Web, which is one of the worst films I watched this year. Terrible movie, really bad. I laughed a lot, not because it was funny, because it was funny looking, and it was just bad. It was really bad. The most popular movie I watched this year was Interstellar. I rewatched that at AMC Lincoln Square in 70mm IMAX. That was an experience unlike anything I've ever experienced before. If you have the opportunity to go watch Interstellar in 70mm IMAX, I definitely recommend that you do, because it was an experience unlike anything I've ever been through before. It was fantastic. My most obscure film was Goodnight Darling. Shout out Jeff, my guy Jeff Dobler, one of the most talented people that I've connected with. He's a great director. He's a great cinematographer. Shout out Jeff. The newest film I watched in 2024 was Sonic 3. I watched that towards the end of 2024, I believe on the 29th. The oldest film I watched this year, surprisingly, was It's a Wonderful Life, 1946. I gotta watch some more old movies. The longest movie I watched this year was The Brutalist, 215 minutes, which tracks out to be about 3 hours and 30 minutes if I'm not mistaken. And the shortest movie I watched was the Paul Thomas Anderson short film Couch, which was terrible. This movie's terrible. I was speechless. It was bad. Very bad. Some movies I rated higher than average was Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Similarly with The Tree of Life, I gave 5 stars and it has an average of 3.85. Hitman with a 4.5, but it has an average of 3.35. Spider-Man 2, the greatest superhero movie of all time, I give it 5 stars, of course, because what else would I give it? Joker, which I thought was a little bit overhated. I enjoyed it. I thought it was solid. I gave it a 3.5, and it had an average of 2.42. Brutal, guys. You guys are brutal. The Watchers, I gave it 3.5. In retrospect, I think I should have gave it a 3, if I'm being honest, but it has an average of 2.42. But in retrospect, I would have gave it a 3 out of 5 instead of a 3.5. But that's over with and done now. We're in 2025. No need to harbor in the past as we're looking at my stats for the last year. Movies I rated lower than average. Hollowed Out Holly, Lit Up. The sequel, Hallmark movie, terrible movie, 1 star for me. The Happening, I gave a 1 star. I know people like K Meeks and Owen are gonna come at me. They love The Happening. I think The Happening is not good at all. Didn't really like it at all. Thought it was pretty bad. Not for me. Maybe for some other people. The Happening is just not for me. I gave Venom Let There Be Carnage 1.5. I thought this movie was terrible. It's the worst in the Venom trilogy in my opinion. Now this one kind of disappoints me. I gave In the Heights 2.5 and I rewatched the film. Originally I had it at 3.5. I bumped it down a whole star. Madam Web, half star, terrible movie. The worst movie in the whole entire Fast and Furious franchise, Fast X. They were literally playing Rocket League in real life. An interesting movie. Not the best one in the trilogy. Definitely the worst. Didn't have a good time watching it. Did not have a good time watching it. And yeah, these are all the films that I watched in 2024. Some great movies, some bad movies, some in-between movies, but overall, I had a great time watching all these movies. Some movies that really changed my life. Like some movies that I watched for the first time that really changed my life, like Harakiri, The Tree of Life, Nickel Boys, fantastic. Shame, one of the best films I've seen from Steve McQueen. Perfect Blue, fantastic film. Wild Robot brought me to tears. Movies like Memories of Murder, which I finally watched this year, was a huge blind spot for me. Films like The Hunt from Thomas Vinterberg, Perfect Days from Wim Wenders, The Wind Rises, which was discovered to me as being my favorite Hayao Miyazaki film. Films like Amore from Michael Haneke, films like Cure from Kiyoshi Kurosawa, or films like The Handmaiden from Park Chan-wook. Like, there were just some great movies I watched this year. It was a great year for me watching movies, not just 2024 releases, but movies that I watched from years past. So yeah, those were my stats for 2024. I'm hoping to watch more movies in 2025. My goal for 2024 in January, like I said, was 400. I think for 2025, I want to aim for 300. That seems like a good middle ground this year, or no, last year. Last year, I watched 206 movies, but my goal was 400. So I'm thinking if my goal is 300 this year, I'm going to be able to attain that. I think I can watch 94 more movies than last year. I think that's completely doable. So far for this year, I think I'm 14 movies in. It's currently the 15th of January. It is currently the 14th of January. I'm 13 movies in, so I'm 1 movie behind. But so far, I've been watching a movie every single day, and I think that if I continue, I can be on that streak to get to 300 movies in the year. I had a really great time looking through my Letterboxd stats. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it as well. If you liked the video, make sure to like, comment, and share with a friend. And if you feel so inclined, feel free to subscribe to this YouTube channel. As TikTok is slowly becoming banned, I want to expand on this YouTube channel, and if you subscribe, we can build this community up together. So feel free to tell everyone that Jeremiah is now making YouTube videos. This is where I'm going to be making most of my content from here moving out, and it will be awesome if you join me for the ride. But with all that being said, have a good day and watching good movies. Peace.